MSRP on a new Jeep Grand Cherokee, plus no payments for 90 days at Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, 1750 Independence Boulevard in Bedford. MagicCityBedford.com. Stock number BT12821 with approved credit. See dealer for details. Ends 4/30/26.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just Fix 90, where smart support meets real savings.
Hi, Gary the Third here, and I'm excited to say spring has arrived at Gary's Garden Center with great plants and a great selection. Gary's has seasonal color flowers along with vegetables, 60-plus varieties of herbs, perennial flowers, and much more. With friendly service and great advice, we are always happy to answer your questions. Visit Gary's Garden Center at 794 Leesville Road for all your lawn and garden needs. Stop by, say hi, and take a look around.
Remember the 1970s? A lot has changed, but one thing has not changed: Washington's regulations on local stations. Regulations that make it tough for local TV and radio stations to compete with global big tech platforms. If you want to keep local news and live sports on TV and radio, we need updated regulations. Tell Washington to modernize the rules to help local stations compete. Learn more at nab.org/modernize the rules. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
One common denominator for type A personalities is, I'm sorry, my mistake, my favorite, because I use this one, my bad, or mea culpa if you want to go back into the Latin because your middle school taught you Latin and wanted you to somehow learn to speak it in everyday parlance. Yes, shots may be fired to begin the fast lane. The reason, though, for bringing that up is if you struggle with that phrase, our friends at Central Virginia Counseling can help. I struggle with it. I have my first visit there today. I am stoked for more of those. It's helping me. It's going to help me. I am taking a positive tone to this, especially as we are always in a stressful situation with growth being the goal, and we have some growth ambitions we're excited to be working on at the Virginia Talk Radio Network. But when that happens, you're pushed outside your comfort zone and therefore getting some assistance. So why not call Central Virginia Counseling? All of that is tied into the world of sports today in the fast lane, because if you struggle with that phrase, mea culpa, my bad, my mistake, then you can relate to today. For the most part, I believe the NBA would be better served if the first round of the playoffs were best 3 out of 5. First team to win 3 games means you could get a maximum of 5 games in there, a 3-2 series winner. That would be better than the best 4 out of 7 variety. You get to the first team to get to 4 wins, which means you might take up to 7 games to determine who that is. For the most part, I thought the NBA would be better served with that. And frankly, the NHL, to a lesser extent, would benefit from that. Kind of like baseball's opening round outside of the wild card round is a best 3 of 5. You know what? Mea culpa for this year. My bad, because if you look at the NHL and the NBA playoffs, I think it's been fantastic theater. And I'm not just biased because we're bringing you the coverage on the VTRN Sports app and Asset Smart Speaker, open VTRN Sports, or the traditional way, the old school way, appropriate for a Throwback Thursday, 93.3 FM. If you look at the majority of series, they've been good. Okay, in the NBA, yes. The Portland Trail Blazers were summarily dismissed by Wemby and the Spurs 4-1. They got a courtesy game in game 2, but really San Antonio flexed and showed why they have
a game in which Victor Wembanyama got hurt in.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that, Trey. But otherwise, the Spurs showed why, if it's not this year, they're going to win a title within the next 2 to 3 years. Trey is more the NBA guy, but maybe he has a 10,000-foot view. It hurts me sometimes, but in certain spots, I'd also say it helps. I think the Spurs will win a championship, if not this year, within the next couple of years. They just have too strong of an organization, too much of a nucleus. And the Oklahoma City Thunder are the favorite to win this year, and they swept out the Phoenix Suns. But everything else has been really compelling theater and entertainment. The other 6 series, all 4 of the series in the East and the other 2 in the West, are at least 6 games and have the potential, the hope to go 7. And then the NHL playoffs. Okay, the Carolina Hurricanes are really strong out of the East. And the favorite in the NHL are the Colorado Avalanche. Both of them swept their opening round series. But all the other ones have gone at least 6 games. One of them can only go 6 games because, as a Philadelphia sports fan, I've got to take at least a brief second to rub it into the face of Pittsburgh Penguins fans from last night where the Penguins outshot the Flyers by 11, but it didn't matter because all it takes is one time, one good shot, and a one-timer fired in that sounded like this from one of the more up-and-coming play-by-play broadcasters, and certainly the best right now in hockey. At least Doc Emmerich hockey level. But I think you could certainly argue now Kenny Alvarez reached Gary Thorne, including how this moment transpired, he described it, and then let it breathe.
Flyers control the face-off. Shot from long range, score! The Flyers win it! Cam York beating the Sealoffs in overtime!
But, by the way, a brief little detour. We're on the subject of this. But did you hear the ping of the puck hitting the post and then clanking back out after it banged into the post last night? I don't know if it's just me, Trey, but combine that with, if you were listening on the VTRN Sports app when UConn got to the magic number of 73 and beat Duke 73-72, you could hear Braylon Mullins swish with the 35.3-footer. You could hear the audio of it going down and twinkling the twine of the nets as it hit the bottom. These crowd mics are awesome. Like, the viewing and listening experience is superior to anything it's ever been before when microphones can pick that type of distinction up the way that it did. I love it. But Trey, this has been really compelling theater. And maybe my view on this is a little different because of full disclosure. In the fast lane and in the morning warm-up, we can kind of give you a priority in no particular order. High school sports, Virginia colleges, Tech, UVA, Liberty, JMU, we put ODU in there as well. And college sports, and then the NFL. Like, those are the ones that take the cake regularly. But we will occasionally touch on other sports, tennis, golf, playoff, NBA, NHL, and in MLB. And when you get to that level, the theater really is compelling. I am all for sitting there believing that one of the biggest questions is, I know the answer to this is
dollar bills, y'all.
But why else do we really need 82 game seasons, or basically double that, 162, not quite double, but almost, in Major League Baseball? Because we know the answer is
dollar bills, y'all.
And because of that, it's not going away. But when you finally get through the minutia of that and get to the playoffs, God, the theater has been compelling. And I'll give a hat tip as well. The NHL has had a salary cap, which by and large has balanced out the power. Now, you've had teams that have been consistently good over a period of time. The favorites this year are the Avalanche. The Panthers and Lightning have won multiple Stanley Cup titles the last handful of years. The Lightning and the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay
They've won the last, at least like 5 of the last 6 or something crazy like that.
Correct. Colorado's also gotten their way into that grouping as well. Hurricanes have been consistently good. But you don't get the same team every year. The NBA, since the Golden State Warriors had Curry, Clay, Draymond, and yes, the Leacher, Kevin Durant. If you think I make fun of LeBron James, Trey, Kevin Durant really deserves it because he didn't try to create a title on his own. He just latched on with other people and then tried to act like he was all tough and big and bad, and that's what he got. But since then, this has been great. Like, the theater has been good, and the NBA has actually been a lot better. You would know this more than I, and you and I discuss this more often in the morning warm-up from 7 to 8 a.m. than we do here in the fast lane 5 to 6 p.m. But the NBA's, what I best describe it as the second apron for their salary cap. It's essentially a salary cap. And it is so cumbersome to get over a certain financial threshold that you can pay a lot of money to retain a whole host of star players, but it comes so cost prohibitive that really nobody has done it. And because of that, you're seeing talent stick in their original franchises for longer periods of time. Oklahoma City may not win it every year, but they could easily be like the Panthers or Lightning or to the NHL, which is in contention every year. The Spurs, I know it has been a decade since they won, but I think they'll win one in the next couple of years. If I'm wrong, Trey can speak up because he knows the NBA, but they've got what will be the best player in the NBA within the next 2 to 3 years if Wemby is not already that. But even in spite of that, the Celtics, the Nuggets, I won't put my Sixers in that because I'm disgruntled and very cynical. But for the most part, you've got now the ability to spread talent around. And because of that, you have more teams that have an opportunity to win on a regular basis. You know, that's really the sweet spot for sports. You want teams that are consistently there. You want model standard franchises that are out there. You need star players. And in the NHL, the best teams that have won have often had star players, but not all the time. The NBA, it's absolutely been the case, and it will be again because, again, within 2 to 3 years, Wemby's going to be number one in the NBA.
Might be now. Like I think it's SGA, but he might.
But he's right on the cusp, and much like that, the Spurs are right on the cusp of Oklahoma City. But I bring all that up, Trey, to say tie all of this together. Are we in the golden age of these sports in terms of their playoff series being compelling? It's not like it was back in the day. The NHL, it's been a while since this, but it was the Red Wings, then the Penguins, then the Blackhawks, where you knew who was going to win every year. I know last couple of years it's been Tampa and Florida, but they have been challenged at different points. Colorado may get challenged in the final. It may be before then until they get there because they're going to get a beat-up Minnesota or Dallas team in that series that goes long, and then they'll get VGK, Anaheim, Edmonton, or Utah, and all of them are going long as well. So Colorado is going to be insanely rested. But the NBA right now, with the volume of teams that are going deep in their series, the fact that you now have a legitimate challenger, Oklahoma City, that is at least right on the cusp, it's great. The one thing I will say for baseball, if you want to throw them out of this equation, is, and sorry to my guy Mike at Brownstone Properties, he's a big Dodgers fan, but they've hoarded so much talent that it's really hard for a lot of franchises in baseball, even if you make the playoffs, to see a path to making a deep run. Dude, look at the NBA right now. Again, maybe I'm off filter on this, but the Orlando Magic are an 8 seed and are on the verge of knocking off Detroit.
Yeah, but that's not a typical 8 seed. They were coming into the season projected to be like a 4 or 5 seed, had injuries all year, and have underperformed.
But it speaks to the balance of power in the East, where there are enough teams now that could legitimately.
It wouldn't be the first. It's going to be the first 8 if it happens. It'd be the first 8-1 upsets in 2023. Where, Ed, do you know what team that was? Because I do.
All right, repeat the year. 8-1 upset.
2023.
Was that the 8 seed Miami Heat?
That made it to the NBA Finals.
Was that when they upset Milwaukee?
Yes.
Okay, got my memory.
No,
correct.
was that 20?
Or was that the second round that they beat Milwaukee?
No.
Trey is here to fill me in.
It was the first round because they beat Milwaukee, and then they played a Knicks team in the second round, and then they played the Celtics, and that was the last time. That was the last time we got a team that went up 3-0 or was down 3-0 forced to Game 7, which we almost have. Which again, that's a unique case of the Rockets were a minus 750 favorite and lost the first 3 games and could come back. So it's kind of it's unique scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, and the Lakers are banged up. Let's be real here. I dog LeBron a lot, but
I think they'll be better in Game 6. I think it's kind of like your Sixers, which they might lose tonight.
I was shocked they got it to tonight.
But like, I don't know who brought up this point, but it was a really good point. Oh, it was Kenny Smith. He said, like, I wonder. He's like, I bet you they'll be better in Game 6 because Reeves was coming back in Game 5, and that's a big adjustment. And same thing happened with Philadelphia in Game 5, where they could have tied the series against Boston. Embiid was coming back, too big of an adjustment in a Game 5, and then Game 4, and so on and so forth.
You know what's crazy as well? You know,
the guy on the other side that doesn't watch basketball and is at other marquee events during NBA playoff games, but will start the NBA playoff, but then talk about the NBA playoff games on his show, or somehow, like I called it, turn the draft into a rant about how the Knicks lost.
Are you the one? You did call that correctly, by the way, Trey. The guy that everybody is taking the bait on when it comes to NASCAR drivers being athletes He won that because his whole goal is just to get people talking about him because that's how he operates. He, by the way, his middle initial is the first letter in the alphabet if you're trying to figure this one out. So who this person is. I try not to mention the names, but we're giving clues. It's like when I mention grocery stores and say Salisbury, North Carolina, Cincinnati, Ohio, Bentonville, Arkansas, or Batavia, Illinois. You can look at the products they make in the store, look at the back of them and realize, yep, that's the one Ed is mentioned. I know I just referred to myself in the third person. But all of that is to say, we haven't even gotten in, by the way, this spring, Trey, to two other things that have made it interesting. Lacrosse, Virginia, I think a lot of the metrics indicate they're probably in the NCAA lacrosse tournament. It's expanded the field a couple of times, so it's larger than it's been. They look like they're a team that will get in, especially now if you qualify for the ACC tournament. You have a much better chance. They get Notre Dame 5 p.m. tomorrow. That I know they beat Notre Dame earlier, but that was in Charlottesville. Kind of a defensive slugfest. Can they do it again? Notre Dame's in a revenge spot. I think the Irish, as they are, they deserve to be a couple of goal favorite. I think Virginia will keep it close, but you factor that in. Richmond is real strong in lacrosse. They beat Virginia earlier in the year, but they are in a, it's a stronger conference, but a weaker one relative to the perennial strong ACC and Big Ten conferences for lacrosse. And then in baseball, I mean, look, we know the College World Series is great, and I'm not just saying this is a bias because we carry the men's lacrosse Final Four, the women's and men's College World Series, all on the VTRN Sports app from our great play-by-play friends at Westwood One. But don't look now, but Virginia Tech baseball is playing their way into bubble conversation.
No, they're in the NCAA tournament.
See, I kind of view them more as a bubble team, but
well, they're on the bubble, but they're in like the latest projection I saw from Baseball America had them as a 3 seed, as them one of the last teams in.
I think that's remarkable. Like when you consider that they are operating a financial deficit relative to other schools that can invest in non-revenue, because baseball is not a money-making sport. Like they're not in a spot where, with all due respect, they don't have the Virginia backing where Virginia's got these wealthy alums that are putting up for tennis, squash, pickleball. We know Alexis Ohanian with women's basketball.
Did you say tennis, squash, pickleball?
I don't know if pickleball's there, but tennis and squash in Virginia. Swimming and diving. Lacrosse, all very well compensated. Baseball has been, since the shot was fired by Brian O'Connor to leave, they've done a good job. Obviously, I think O'Connor's got Mississippi State in a little stronger place than Pollard of Virginia, but and feel free to agree or disagree at Fastlane, Ed Lane on the socials. But for Virginia Tech baseball, look, I've gotten on John Sheff as much as anybody, particularly with pitching woes. But the fact that he somehow has duct taped this team to an NCAA tournament team, there's a great article from Dylan Teft at TechSideline.com. And please forgive me, Trey, if you mentioned that in your chat with Andy Bitter of TechSideline.com earlier today. But
I think it came out after the show today.
That's what I thought. But I know most of your conversation was on leadership of Virginia Tech. And Virginia Tech justifiably is focused on football first and foremost to play their way into being desired whenever a super league or some kind of realignment occurs in college athletics. But tip your cap to them. Like, we're in a really compelling spring sports season, relatively speaking. I don't oversell it to say that when we get to late July and early August, and we're talking football training camp and the start of high school football and our team previews for high school and ACC football media days and everything that goes from that and feeds into basketball. We know those are the engines that drive a lot of the audience engagement. I'm just saying, don't sleep on this time of year that it's a bad time to be a sports fan when it's still entertaining. And the other cool thing is, if you're like me, most of the interest and the energy justifiably is put into the sports that generate the most interest. But I can sit back and watch a lot of these right now and just say, yeah, it's a cool thing to watch as a sports fan, as opposed to a sports fan who also is blessed to cover it, but also puts more in it. So my vibe around it is just appreciating it for what it is, which is intense, approaching or into postseason play, which is making it exciting. And that hasn't even gotten into what's been a compelling NASCAR season, the direction that sport is going. Trey's actual boss, not me, but the real one, Tom Bowles of FrontStretch.com. Because let's be real here, I'm not really your boss, Trey. I can just make recommendations.
I call you my supervisor.
That's a good way to describe it. I make recommendations to our owner.
We've become more. This
Collins.
is better. We've
Collins.
become more equals as my time. Like I'm year 5 here, so we've become more equals.
We are very close.
When I started, I wasn't an equal, but then because you hired me, But then once we're more equals.
You are more assistant manager than assistant to the regional.
I'm not.
manager.
Yeah, TJ's. As I hope he's listening on his way back to the Lynchburg area. He's our. I hope he takes this as a compliment. I really do. He is our Dwight Schrute.
Oh my God! And there it is. No way!
He found his Angela. So you know what? Congrats to him. And I mean that. In
Brenda
the nicest way possible.
Brenda is much more likable than Angela.
Hey, she's like the real Angela, the person, not the actor, not the character.
She's the one that we like Brenda. Angela, you make fun of. We don't make fun of.
No, I'm not, and I was
Brenda.
not trying to make. I hope he took that as a compliment.
Well, I'm just clarifying it because Brenda likes to listen to the Fast Lane.
Hey.
We're grateful for her audience. She knows her stuff.
If they're a fan of The Office, then I'm good.
Hey, look, all more power to them.
If I watch Survivor, then I would really. That's a layup for me. But I don't watch Survivor, so unfortunately, I cannot do a Survivor reference.
Nope, don't have enough time for it. Meanwhile, actually, by the way, quick detour.
Time to take a detour in the Fast Lane.
Love on the Spectrum. It's a show about people on the autism spectrum. We watch it on Netflix.
Chelsea Storm Durham loves that show.
I love it too. Oh, my wife and I really appreciate it. Even though they're the socially awkward moments, you understand why that's the case with people trying to read body language and cues and trying to find and feel love and get to enjoy that. But it's cool to see that because, and the reason for bringing it up is April's Autism Acceptance Awareness Month. And last week was Earth Day. And I'm not getting into the whole political ramifications of Earth Day. I'm more of a, hey, clean up after yourself. Do not litter. Try to recycle if you can. Please don't dump hazardous products into our streams. Just take care of our environment. I'm not let's get this into a political diatribe because in America, there are people that have to turn everything into it. And really, that's kind of the goal to escape that in the fast lane. But April's brought us that. It's brought us Autism Awareness Month. I know Autism Awareness Day was at the beginning of the month, and we're bringing it up literally like the last possible second that we can.
Literally.
Like it's today, the last day for it. But it's worth bringing up because the idea of the spectrum, I was talking, my first meeting with Central Virginia Counseling today is, am I somewhere on the spectrum? Probably. Where? I have no idea. But the definition of it is so much more vast than it was back in the day. And that's a great thing. And we're also much better at learning how to love, tolerate, and accept people who may be on it, may be different, and realize they bring a lot to society. And it's worth acknowledging that, and that they can still be extremely high-functioning members of society and are worth admiring for what they bring, and they can still learn. And oftentimes are better at learning because they have to always be committed to learning because it doesn't come naturally to them. So,
after Ed's potentially unnecessary detour, let's get back on the road in the Fast Lane.
We will get back on the road in the Fast Lane, and we will look at other things that have gone on, including yesterday, today, tomorrow. What do we mean? Find out next in the Fast 5 at 5-ish on the VTRN Sports app and ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
We are making it happen at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier used car dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years with the best selection, value, finance options, and exceptional service. Plus 900 pre-owned vehicles all in one location. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume. The Used Car Superstore is your one stop for most makes and models. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs. Many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Plus, Sheeler owns the finance company. Getting approved for credit is easy on the Motor Mile with finance options for every budget. 900 used vehicles in stock now. More than any other dealer in the area. Hurry in for straightforward pricing and more inventory arriving daily. Why wait? Make it happen at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier family-owned car dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Hi, Gary the Third here, and I'm excited to say spring has arrived at Gary's Garden Center with great plants and a great selection. Gary's has seasonal color flowers along with vegetables, 60-plus varieties of herbs, perennial flowers, and much more. With friendly service and great advice, we are always happy to answer your questions. Visit Gary's Garden Center at 794 Leesville Road for all your lawn and garden needs. Stop by, say hi, and take a look around.
You walk into a repair shop, hear the price of their estimate, realize they'll take an eternity to get to you, and go, uh-oh, better get Mako. At Mako of Lynchburg, they're certified to do repairs on any type of car and for any insurance company because they ultimately answer to you. They'll process through insurance companies or help you pay out of pocket. They don't get better prices to insurance companies than they would for you because at Mako, it's all about being honest with you. So if your car needs collision repair or paint, go, better get Mako on Kemper Street in Lynchburg.
Are you sick of running your dryer longer just to dry your clothes? It might not be a dying appliance. It might be a clogged up dryer vent. Call Black Goose Chimney Service to find out. Their certified ventilation specialists don't just diagnose chimneys. They also clean dryer vents through the entire ventilation system. Get peace of mind as you're protected from lint clogging your dryer vents, one of the most common causes of house fires. Call Black Goose Chimney Service today and visit blackgoose.net to schedule your dryer vent cleaning.
Ready for a getaway? Whether if it's a beach trip, mountain retreat, or a long-awaited family adventure, Farmers Bank can help you get there. Our vacation loan options offer simple terms and local services you can trust, so you can focus on making memories and not stressing over financing. Life moves fast. Take time to recharge and reconnect. When you're ready to plan your next escape, we're ready to help. Farmers Bank, your community, your bank, your future.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
I don't know if you would classify this one as like yesterday, today, tomorrow. It could be all of them. But a week or two ago, this guy named William Jackson, who is a 3-star quarterback recruit, started reaching out to us. And apparently he follows Fastlane Ed Lane on the socials. I hope he follows the Sea of Red as well as J.C. Manson and Bryson Gordon for their Liberty Flames coverage and insight as well. But this is the first and literally to date the only individual that I've ever seen who, I mean, I don't know if it's him. I don't know if it's his representatives, because a lot of these guys have them now in the era of NIL. But every time it's an official or unofficial visit coming in, recapping it, whatever, they are adding us at Fastlane Ed Lane on Twitter and Instagram. And look, again, I don't know who this William Jackson character is. I don't get into the recruiting weeds that much. Never even did before, but probably to a lesser degree now, unless you're in the Commonwealth of Virginia and I can monitor, okay, you play for Varina. JF might end up playing you. Or you play for Hopewell, Trey's area, Richmond. Shout out to the 804.
Well, you named two. Varina's closer to where I was from, by the way, than Hopewell.
Yes. And but I'll bring up Hopewell because they can play an LCA or a Heritage or any of our area schools. At that point, my antenna go up because I'm sitting there going, I need to pay attention to this because there's a good chance in November or December that one of our area schools is going to be playing one of these teams, and they may beat them, which would be a cool story to beat someone of that talent, or they may lose. And hey, you tip your cap like JF football last year where they lost to Marina, who's got two guys who signed on at UVA. This is a shorter, smaller UVA class because they hate more transfers. Tip your cap and just say, look, I mean, the team's loaded. Like, JF was really good. They just ran into the better team that, by the way, won the state championship game by a lot wider margin than they did against JF. So I bring all that up, kind of circling back in the fast lane to say this. I don't follow recruiting outside the area a ton. But I'm aware of this William Jackson because he and or his people every single time are hitting us up on social media. And I give the guy credit. Like, this guy may not commit to Liberty. Maybe he does. But I'm at least aware of this individual because he and his people have taken the small amount of effort, not a lot, but a small amount, to just put a little effort into the process. And voila, it's getting them attention that it otherwise would not. And if somehow this guy winds up in the LBG over on the mountain, hey, people will be a lot more aware of him because there are a lot of people around here that certainly get excited for the Liberty Flames and Liberty Flames football. Speaking of yesterday, today, and tomorrow, literally yesterday
It's time for Fast 5 at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
All right, another Usher moment here in the fast lane. Getting my Usher on. I was one of the individuals who kind of was skeptical and maybe even snickered when NASCAR and the CW agreed to a deal for the CW to broadcast the Busch, the Xfinity, the O'Reilly, the NASCAR AAA race series. Mea culpa, my bad, sticking with our bigger picture theme today in the fast lane. That series is consistently rated well. It is posting audience gains. Some of it is driver accessibility is greater. They show more personalities. Some of it is the quality of racing. But they don't have the same level of brand cachet and recognition that the Cup Series has. And yet their ratings are now, in some cases, getting mighty close. Not surpassing, but getting mighty close to the Cup Series. Part of the reason is the CW. The CW brings good coverage. It is accessible. People don't think of it in the same level as Fox, NBC, CBS, and ABC, but it is technically broadcast TV. And it's one platform for NASCAR fans to remember. And now, the one issue that has happened with their viewership that will probably boost it a little more, I'm not going to overstate it, is the fact that yesterday, that series in NASCAR agreed for the CW races to be streamed on the new ESPN Unlimited plan. $30 a month, basically, or $300 a year, basically. I love the concept behind this because you are streamlining the way for the sport to be consumed. Am I under the belief or the delusion that NASCAR regrets taking its very fractured TV deal with 4 different top parent companies and 6 different networks that are associated with it? Fox FS1, NBC USA, beginning and end of the year, and then Amazon Prime and TNT in the middle. No, because ultimately they get the money, the deals have agreed to, and you're going to ride this as long as you can. But is there a potential blueprint if that does not go well over the back half of it and NASCAR needs some kind of escape hatch? I absolutely think so. Because the core fans seem to embrace the CW, and if it's drawing good numbers for a Busch Series race, Xfinity, O'Reilly, Grand National, NASCAR AAA, whatever you want to call it, it would be better for the Cup Series. And it would be one platform. And if you're not one of the main sports, so people are going to find the NFL. They will find the NBA and the NHL playoffs. NASCAR is a convenience sport. When it's convenient to find, it's easy. When you make it hard, a lot of casual fans will find something else. That is a concern for NASCAR. Just keep that network name, the CW, in your back pocket. Now, the subject of number 4, think this is a good idea or not.
Number 4.
Yesterday would have been the 75th birthday for the great NASCAR driver, the greatest of all time in my eyes, at least the fact there'll never be another personality like him, Dale Earnhardt. Ryan McGee said it best when we spoke with him at the ACC kickoff last year. You can go way deep into the archives at Fast Lane and Lane, however and wherever you consume your podcast, because
and guess what? We keep receipts.
Dating back, but we still do, right there. He's the greatest one when it comes to motorsports. You do wonder the direction things would have gone. I think the unique thing is he would have brought a lot, but it's not that people in NASCAR haven't brought anything. NASCAR needed a level of being challenged. It needed something that was going to push it forward, and it's gotten that. But it is still a fun thing to wonder, and certainly is worth speculating about when Tom Bowles, Trey's actual boss for FrontStretch.com, joins us in about 5 minutes. Meanwhile, speaking of today, or basically today, this coming football season,
Number 3.
new for the 2026 football season, UVA will debut the new South Lawn Club. It is one of these exclusive premium membership add-on things that provides unprecedented access at Scott Stadium. There's a viewing area where fans can be all alongside the team in the tunnel. There's an immersive game day experience type deal. There are only 150 of these, which I like the concept of because it provides a level of exclusivity. It does not include your ticket. It is an add-on that's available for $500 per person, and there's a minimum giving level of $1,750 or more annually to the VAF, the Virginia Athletics Foundation. I like it because it's a creative way to bring this in. You can always boost the number from 150 to 200, 250, 300. You can still make it a relatively exclusive deal for this type of VIP experience, but it's part of what you need to do. It doesn't mean that players should be expected to come over and shake their hands, although it's not the worst idea in the world. These are college kids who don't quite grasp the ramifications sponsor-wise of the fact that these people are kind of helping fund their NIL. The way that NASCAR understands it, when a driver meets with fans and people on pit road before the race, a lot of times it's because those are sponsor activations that literally are paying that driver's salary. There's a difference in there. But I'm for this concept, and I'm for it being something that Virginia does. Other schools are going to copy it. We should not be so naive to not think it isn't happening. But for Virginia, it's at least adapting, and that's part of what you have to be willing to do in this day and age. Speaking of adapting today, tomorrow, and going into the future, two things that we're going to bridge that together, including sticking in the ACC.
Number 2.
Duke is entering the first of its kind enterprise setup with Amazon, where Prime Video will televise at least 3 marquee men's college basketball games in the upcoming season. And these are legit basketball games. UConn, Michigan, and Gonzaga, all at different junctures of the upcoming season. There's also a seedling thing that comes in with this, because ESPN is working with Duke and the ACC on this concept. 1, the ACC needs to be willing to embrace creative ideas and try to keep their conference together, particularly the halves. Duke really is not a have in football. See how Miami bought Darian Mensah and Cooper Marquet, the quarterback and wide receiver duo, straight off their roster. But no tampering ever occurs in college football. Laugh about that. But the fact that you understand this, and yes, Duke should be treated differently in basketball than your bottom feeders in the ACC. Now, Miami, to their credit, they're spending money. So too were Virginia, North Carolina, Louisville, and others. But for the programs that are not, Duke should be getting to the spot where they can bring more revenue to the table. You have to be willing to think outside the box. And it is creating a level of haves and have-nots. But haven't we already understood that that's how this game is operating? If you're the ACC, you've got to at least lean into that, because if you don't, it could be to your detriment and to the benefit of
Number 1.
the Big 12, who have struck the first private equity deal when it comes to college athletics. I would say this. You combine that with their commissioner, Brett Yormark, his brother basically being the next athletic director. I don't think it's officially been announced, but I'll sign as point 2. Brett Yormark's brother, Michael Yormark. Is it Michael or Matt Yormark, Trey?
Pretty sure it's Michael.
Thank you. I got it right. Michael Yormark being hired as the new athletic director at the University of Miami.
Miami to the Big 12, confirmed.
According to Trey. But these are trial balloons, really, Trey. That's what this is about. It's about trying it out, seeing which schools are willing to embrace this. Because the ACC is doing this, and I think, if anything, you may get a split of the haves and the have-nots. I don't think that Liberty or JMU would ever get into the haves portion of the ACC. They're not going in the same direction that Virginia Tech, Carolina, Miami, Florida State, Clemson, left, Florida State, all of you want. Even Duke with basketball are going to go. But if you're Liberty and your next best thing is you're playing schools like Boston College and Syracuse and Wake Forest, I know BC, Syracuse, and Wake may not like that, but if I'm Liberty, sign me up for that in a heartbeat. Like, those are good marquee opponents. You know, it's like Boise State. Washington State and Oregon State may not want to play them, but your Boise State, that's an upgrade. And for Liberty and JMU, you understand that. And that's where you're really getting an idea. You're starting to see these lines seated in fractured so that when 2029, 2030 arrive, we will be closer to realizing who actually fits the haves and the have-nots. When we return to the fast lane, NASCAR, we have a gamut of topics to run with Tom Bowles of FrenchStretch.com. So what ifs on Dale Earnhardt Sr., the CW, and other business ventures, all of that when we return to the fast lane, the VTR and Sports app, and Ask That Sports Speaker, open VTR and Sports.
Here we grow again at the Sheeler Motor Mile. It's here, the all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. More brands, more selection, and the same exceptional service you expect from a trusted community partner. Whether you're shopping Chevrolet or Buick, you'll find quality, value, and a team that puts you first. From rugged trucks and SUVs to stylish cars and family-friendly vehicles, the Motor Mile has something for everyone. With straightforward pricing and top dollar for your trade, there's no better place to buy. Bring us your trade, new or older, paid off or not, and see why your car is worth more on the Motor Mile. Plus, with more inventory arriving daily, now is the time to shop the Motor Mile. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Experience the Motor Mile at 3 convenient locations: Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. For over 50 years, we've got Southwest Virginia covered. The all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. Certified friendly staff. No games, no gimmicks. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at MotorMileChevroletBuick.com.
Hello.
Got an upgrade. Stop by Mockadoo for our $8.95 weekday special and grab a legendary sandwich at an unbeatable
hung
price.
up.
Choose your favorite classic like Coney Island, Betty Bob, Ragtime, or Stogie. Classic sandwiches packed with savory meats and flavors in between.
Just
fresh bread.
hanging up
Make
on me,
it by
okay?
Sharing your sandwich with a sidekick, a warm cup of soup, or crispy chips. Great food, cozy vibes, and the best deal in town.
No, I'll blame it on him. That's okay. All right, we got about 90 seconds to go back on air. So I'll send you through. Thank you.
Summer is a time for sunshine and growth, but even in life's brighter moments, things can still feel overwhelming. At Central Virginia Counseling, we provide professional support when you need it most. This summer, prioritize your well-being. Our experienced counselors are here to help you build resilience and move forward with confidence. Take the first step today. Visit centralvirginiacounseling.com to get started. Central Virginia Counseling, where courage meets compassion.
If you own a diesel truck or diesel fleet, it's time to go wicked and get serviced for the spring. And when you go wicked, take 25% off your service request for a limited time. Wicked Diesel in Bedford will allow 25% off a transmission flush, coolant flush, oil change, differential service, or AC service. Your choice. Just tell Josh you want that 25% off service special. Download the coupon at wickeddieselva.com. Need diesel repair? Go wicked.
When shopping for auto liability insurance, it's wise to consider the best policy, not the cheapest. Hi, I'm Randy Trost with Trost Law. It's crucial to have more than the minimum insurance on your auto liability policy. This protects you if you injure someone or if someone without proper insurance hurts you. Having the right policy ensures you have sufficient underinsured coverage to take care of you and your family. To learn more how we can help you navigate these challenges, visit us at trostlaw.com. That's trostlaw.com.
Step into the fast lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle PT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the fast lane.
The greatest one in motorsport, maybe the greatest one in sports, is Dale Earnhardt Sr. That is something that Ryan McGee mentioned when we spoke with him at the ACC kickoff last year. And I do think there's actually some merit to that, because we bring it up because yesterday would have been Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s 75th birthday, and we're not going to make it all about what ifs and Dale Earnhardt Sr. Maybe not the greatest driver of all time. To me, he is, but I think you could obviously mention Richard Petty or Jimmy Johnson in that category as well. But certainly the most compelling, captivating personality in NASCAR of all time. Tom Bowles of FrenchStretch.com is with us here in the Fast Lane. Is that a reasonable take? We will get off the Dale Earnhardt Sr. stuff in just a moment, but is it reasonable to say that there are a lot of what ifs, but my what if to you is if Dale Earnhardt Sr. were around today, how would he have received NASCAR, and how would NASCAR receive Dale Earnhardt Sr. in where all these changes have ultimately led us now?
Well, that's a great question, Ed, and thanks for having me on the show. I think that if Dale Earnhardt Sr. were around today, first of all, I'll take a step back and say I truly believe he would have won an 8th championship. I think he would have won an 8th championship before retiring. I think he would be the benchmark that people would be going after. And I think it's a really hard thing to gauge, right? I think that Earnhardt would be really happy, let's say, with people like Carson Hocevar that are authentically their true selves and pushing, new fans into the sport. And he would be happy with, certain young drivers that are up and coming, but I don't think he'd be happy with the new car. I don't think he'd be happy with some of the rules. At the same time, you could make the argument, and this is where hypotheticals get tough, that if Dale Earnhardt Sr. were alive today, maybe we wouldn't even have the chase. Maybe the chase would never have even started in 2004, because he always had the ear of Bill France Jr. He always had the ear of the France family, Dale Sr. did. And, he felt very strongly about, the current point system that they had when when he passed away, and that some of the rules that were already in place, and where he was already worried about some of the spec stuff that was coming down the pike. So you could argue that Earnhardt would have had a big influence in some of the rules, that it might be a different NASCAR today in general if Dale Sr. were alive. So I think it's a hard question to answer.
Tom Bowles of FrontStretch.com. He is at NASCAR Bowles on his social media platforms, Twitter in particular, and he's joining us today here in the Fast Lane. So you mentioned all the changes in NASCAR. Big picture, leadership change that's happened within the last week. Jim France is relinquishing his role as CEO. Steve O'Donnell replaces him, and Ben Kennedy gets promoted to Chief Operating Officer. When and where will this be noticeable the most within the next 2 years?
That it'll be noticeable the most in terms of the way in which teams and drivers work together with the sanctioning body. The fact that Steve went through that trial, which all of the NASCAR officials were put out on display and basically publicly flogged, right, for all their behavior. That, whether it was text messages that were insulting other owners, whether it was, insinuation that they had greed over extra millions of dollars that they were trying to save for the sanctioning body itself, whether they were, Daytona Beach to be against the owner. Part of that, but the fact that O'Donnell has risen to replace Jim France and he's been able to patch things up with the ownership group speaks to who he is as a person and speaks to his strength of character. And one thing I can tell you about Steve O'Donnell from people that I talk to is he's not somebody that's going to agree with you on, but he does do what he said that he was going to do on Fox Sports when first big role or big change you're going to make. And he's like, I got to do a lot of listening. And he is willing to listen. He is willing to sit down with team disgruntled, with a driver that's disgruntled, listen to why they're upset, listen to the circumstances behind somebody not really feeling like the sport is heading in the right direction. And I think that's a lot of what NASCAR needs right now. In order to get everybody on the same page, you at least need to hear everybody out. And, people want to be heard, Ed. And I think that Steve is somebody that's not only going to be present each week. We saw him in the Victory Lane press conference with Carson Hocevar. How great was that for the CEO to be in the press conference? But he's going to be active in seeking out these opinions. And everybody's quiet saying, hey, haven't heard from you in a while. What like what you're doing, what we're doing, don't like what different types within the NASCAR community are in the fold. And I think that's the biggest difference that we'll look back on in 2 years. I also think the schedule could look a little different, and I think that there's going to be some flexibility there. But that's really the big takeaway so far. When you have somebody that was able to survive something as traumatic for NASCAR as the trial and end up like that, character and the ability to listen and bring people together is something that we've needed in a CEO. We had it in Phelps a little bit 10 years ago, and I'm hoping that we're going to get it again here with Steve O'Donnell.
Tom Bowles of FrontStretch.com is stopping by with us today here in the Fast Lane. Tom, we are grateful for your time. We really appreciate it, of course. You mentioned those two elements where we could see things change in NASCAR, one of which is on the schedule and how the schedule is constructed. Do you have an inkling of what that means? Does it mean more tracks with one race and more tracks that are involved? Does it mean expanding back to areas like the Pacific Northwest or the Midwest or the mountain area? What do you anticipate that actually meaning?
I anticipate that meaning schedule diversity, Ed. I anticipate that meaning a variety of tracks may only have one race and not two in markets.
Tom Bowles of FrontStretch.com. We'll get him back on because we had a couple of technical challenges connecting with Tom. But we'll ask him that question to get out what that means with schedule diversity of NASCAR and the potential for that being one of the big changes that comes with the transition in leadership. Look, bias-wise, of course, I'd love for Martinsville to have two races because I know what it means to the economy in that area. Darlington, too, fine with that. Charlotte, I get it. Daytona and Talladega. Well, for the most part, there are a lot of places where it would be better served with one than with two, and that's the ultimate thing that if you can spread NASCAR around, you can get more people involved. Great. And the other thing about schedule diversity is the potential for the O'Reilly, Xfinity, and the Truck Series to also have different dates as well. So Tom Bowles is back with us from FrontStretch.com. Tom, you were mentioning that schedule diversity could be something that is the reality of the new era with Steve O'Donnell replacing Jim France as CEO and the elevation of Ben Kennedy to COO. Is that just in the Cup Series? Could that mean the Xfinity and I guess O'Reilly is what I should be calling it? That and the Truck Series have more of their own standalone dates at different tracks to expand the sport. What could this all look like, particularly in the next couple of years?
So I don't necessarily think it's the O'Reilly and the Truck Series. I think that ship has sailed over the last couple of years. But what I do think that they're looking at, Ed, is an ability to just squeeze more tracks into the 36 race schedule. I think the Chicago street race and the success of that street race, and also the success of the LA Coliseum years ago when we started moving the Clash around, has shown not just to Steve O'Donnell, but Ben Kennedy, who's been really a proponent of these schedule changes, that you could go to pretty much anywhere in the U.S. And if you have the support of the local leadership, and you could create a street race, you could bring NASCAR into a new market and bring a bunch of fans to that market. We've heard rumors about a Philadelphia street race that didn't end up happening, but there's also a bunch of other places on the calendar that NASCAR could go to. There's also a bunch of other road courses. Remember when we were doing more road courses on the schedule? I think of different places, Laguna Seca is something that comes to mind where, the IndyCar has their series finale in September. There's a wide variety of racetracks out there that would love to have NASCAR. And I think NASCAR is looking at different areas that may be undersaturated, right? That may not have a ton of races around it, as opposed to all of the racing that we have within your Virginia and Charlotte area. You got Charlotte Motor Speedway, you got Bristol, you got Martinsville Speedway, you have Rockingham for O'Reilly and Trucks. Bristol, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Bristol, the spring race audience is, attendance is the worst it's ever been. One of those races that moved somewhere else. I track, get 2 dates on the off years, they only get 1 date. I think there's a lot of stuff they want to play around with.
I'd love to see that. It'd be awesome to see that. Tom Bowles of frontstretch.com is with us here in the fast lane. Could that mean more midweek races, or did that ship sail when it didn't really take very well in the COVID year?
So not what you would want for such a thing. I think the scenario is that we're going to see, more races in more different areas of the country. And, I think the big $1 million question is, we have a 38 race exhausting schedule, right? We have 36 races, 26 in the regular season, 10 in the playoffs. Then you've got the exhibition Clash and the All-Star race. It gets to be a grind. And I think everybody involved in the schedule would feel like it's a grind, or would say it's a grind when the cameras are turned off. Would NASCAR be willing to take a race or two off of the schedule in terms of quality versus quantity? Once you lose a race off that schedule, you don't necessarily get it back. And, that's a monetary loss for them. But I'm curious to see if they would consider that. And I think all options are on the table, because I think people want to try and create a product in the end that's bumps up attendance at some of these tracks that are struggling. And, you have to work on the car, right, and make it more competitive. But also visiting new markets may also tap into new people that want to go to these races.
Tom Bowles stopping by with us in the fast lane. You can catch him at frontstretch.com. Did you notice is his weekly column? It's a great read and an overview of NASCAR. And, of course, he's at NASCAR Bowles on Twitter as well. Tom, a couple of other nuggets when it comes to NASCAR and things that go on from the business side of things. Why is everybody taking the bait on Stephen A's comments? The whole point of his comments about NASCAR drivers not being athletes is just to get a reaction out of people. I've tried to dodge commenting on it because literally that's what it seems like it is, and that's how the guy operates. And yet people can't help themselves, and that's why Stephen A gets the audience he does.
So I'm of two minds on this. I understand why you're not commenting on it, because, Stephen A is a hot take guy that's out there to get a reaction. But at the same time, we got to understand that Stephen A has an audience that know that much about NASCAR. Much as throughout our careers, we always hear this all NASCAR drivers aren't athletes. Oh, they can't hold a candle to the stick and ball sports people. And it almost gets old for us, right? Because it's something that we're constantly going through. The audience that's listening to Stephen A may have only heard that for the first time, and they may not know NASCAR that well. And, the next time that they're casually looking at it, maybe his comments influence them, right? And they don't necessarily take a closer look at the sport. Or, it's something that, for a wider audience that follows Stephen A and not NASCAR, it leaves the impression that if left unchallenged, just sits out there. It's a big name to say NASCAR drivers aren't athletes. So I think you have to fight back to a certain extent. I really loved Ryan Preece's comment of, I'd love to see Stephen A, flip his car 13 times on the backstretch at Talladega and race next week with a black eye. I really liked Joey Logano's pushback of his criticism. And you know what? It brought more attention to the sport in the end, the back and forth on it, put some eyeballs on it and brought some attention to NASCAR, at a time where NASCAR's been very up and down in terms of, the ability to break through nationally this year.
Speaking of things that bring attention to NASCAR, Jason Kelsey from the Super Bowl champion once for him, twice for them in the last 10 years, Philadelphia Eagles, made his pit road debut this past Saturday at Talladega. Is this something that needs to be discussed more, particularly in light of the transition of a lot of former college and maybe sometimes professional football players who are part of the athletes, I might emphasize that, on pit road?
So I think that pit road has become the most competitive that it's ever been because track position is so important nowadays, right? And any type of advantage that you could get and any type of edge, especially with a famous athlete like that, allows you to get that extra tenth of a second, allows you to come out and gain a position that may take you 25 laps to get on the track with the way the next gen is working out. And the way some of these, even in the O'Reilly and Truck Series, the way it's become so much more difficult to pass. So do I think this is going to be more of a thing? I mean, I think it was cool that Jason Kelsey was at Talladega. I think it's cool that, NFL players and athletes from other sports are interested in, being on pit road, but it's nothing new. I mean, you look at some of the pit crews on the Cup Series, there are a lot of retired NFL guys in there that may not be as famous, but they turned around and they just wanted to be a pit crew guy instead. So, this is already a trend line that we're seeing across the sport. And I don't think it's going to be influenced too much either way by guest appearances.
Tom Bowles with us here in the Fast Lane. Tom, last one for you, and I appreciate it. I should have gotten this one in earlier. When it comes to NASCAR and the changes, it seems like the racing is good, but maybe not as good as it could be. How receptive do you believe the new NASCAR leadership and drivers will be collaborating together to get a car that brings about good quality racing throughout the race? Is that happens in 2026? Happens in 2027, or it'll take a couple of years, or it's just never going to happen?
Quickly, I'll say 27. I think that it's going to take some time for the new leadership to create a sense of direction. But as I wrote in my column this week, and I wrote an open letter to Steve O'Donnell, I do think he's 3 days late in addressing the car and getting a task force out there to start working on the Gen 8. We've seen in the past these cars only last like 5 to 7 years before they're replaced. And I feel like the Gen 7 is a 5 to 7 year car and they need to get on it.
My man, Tom Bowles, giving us a good idea, a good synopsis, and Trey can pump his fist because he does it in time for us to get out on a normal slate of schedule so that Trey can get home and get some rest after a long start to his long day. Tom, thank you for helping Trey out today in the Fast Lane. We know that's what you live for.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
Tom Bowles with us here in the Fast Lane. He was even quick to get out of here because he knows just how important it is for Trey to go get some R&R. So in the spirit of that, we will let Trey go do that. We'll come back tomorrow in the Fast Lane after Trey has great insight in the morning warm-up. Who's your guest tomorrow, by the way, Trey?
Michael Massey.
Conveniently from frontstretch.com. Surviving Talladega Boulevard. How did that happen? And more questions and answers? All of that, 7 to 8 a.m. right here, VTR and Sports app. And ask that smart speaker, open VTR and Sports.
Thanks for listening to The Fast Lane on VTR and Sports, 93.3 FM W227 Timberlake, and 1320 AM WVGM Lynchburg.
This is Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. Coming off back-to-back wins by a combined 45 points, the Knicks look to close out the Hawks in Game 6 of their first-round NBA playoff series tonight. Coverage in an hour on ESPN. That's followed by the potential clincher for the Timberwolves versus the Nuggets at 9:30 Eastern.